Hi, so glad to spend some time with you today. We are going to be talking about Easter. My name is Jean Hess and this is my husband Rick.
Hola, shalom, grüß Gott, salam.
Wow, that was quite impressive, honey. Do you want to see what languages these were?
Oh, I don't know, I just picked it up. Spanish, Hebrew, Arabic, German.
Wow. Well, and all I've got is a hi, but the love's still the same. So Easter, we are almost at Easter. The stores are filled with chocolate, Easter bunnies. The kids are going crazy, just getting excited about an Easter egg hunt this year. So our little grandson, Kelton, he has been with his parents. They are taking him through all of the exciting things that are happening between now and Easter. And there was his dad's birthday, there was Valentine's Day, there was his mom's birthday, his granny's birthday, there's going to be the birth of his brand new little sister, and Easter. And all this boy can talk about is, when's Easter? When's Easter? All these relationships that he loves. And yet at the end of the day, all he always asks his mom is, what about Easter? When is Easter? And you see, Easter is really all about relationships. It's all about relationships. We talked about that the other day.
Yes, we did. And it really Easter leads up in that period we sometimes call Holy Week to this time of deep relationships. It begins in the story on Thursday before the Easter Sunday. And that Thursday evening, Jesus calls his disciples together for the Last Supper. And he speaks of it as a time that he has longed for them to come together, to be with him at this time. That relational aspect is there as he washes their feet, as he teaches them, as he spends time just in eating and drinking with them. And it is, in one sense, a wonderful time. And then think of it if you had been a disciple at that time and being led from there to the garden across the way from Jerusalem, and there spending time in prayer with him. And so these intimate times of relationship were so important. But of course, what then happens is he's arrested. He's taken before the leaders. He goes through the trial, the persecution. And as that takes place, the disciples, he's brought so closely together, now separated, and they fled. Even Peter, who stayed on for a while, denied him and then finally went out weeping. Only John would continue and remain, and we see Jesus taking up his cross, going to Golgotha, and there being crucified. And so at the beginning of this account on Thursday evening, he's with his disciples in this close relationship. And there on the cross, there reemerges a relationship, but now it's even in some ways a closer heartfelt relationship, because the disciples are gone except for John, and the others are the women. Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of Jesus, and the others who had followed him day after day in his ministry for so long. And what does Jesus, when he speaks with them, what does he speak of? Even there from the cross, he speaks about how he speaks to John and tells him to take care of his mother Mary. So that closeness of relationship continues as they are there at the cross and witness his death, and witness where finally, as his body is taken down and he is laid to rest in a tomb, they are the ones who are present.
Yeah, and at that table that night, where it looked like perfect relationships, perfect harmony, Jesus becoming the servant and washing his disciples' feet. I mean, what an amazing act of love and companionship and humility that he portrayed to them. And during that meal where he took the bread and broke it and said, "This is my body broken for you," and then when he takes the wine, he says, "This is my blood shed for you." And so he's already beginning to highlight that the harmony and peace that they've enjoyed together is going to become something very different. And he makes it clear he knows that one of them is going to betray him. It's such a poignant scene there. But that's what relationships are like. They can be so close, so perfect, but become fragile and fragmented. And just as you laid out, that's exactly what happened when Judas betrayed him and Peter denied him. And now he is lying in the tomb.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the story.
Yeah, of course, as we know and celebrate, Sunday morning Jesus rises from the dead. What's interesting there is the same people who were with him at the cross are the first ones who witness that resurrection and even see him. It's a wonderful story, and each gospel writer tells it differently, so putting it together is not, it's a bit complicated, but it begins with the women who had been with him at the end of his life. Now they come to the tomb after having rested on the Sabbath on Saturday. They come early Sunday morning to anoint the body and to see, and lo and behold, the stone that had sealed the tomb is rolled away. There are no soldiers around to bar their way. They go into the tomb, and there, instead of Jesus, they see angels who bear witness that, "Why do you seek the living among the dead?"
Wow.
And tell them to go forth. And so they do, and they run back, the women do, led by Mary Magdalene, I believe, and they come and they tell the disciples. Well, the disciples won't believe them. It seems they aren't ready to accept him, except for Peter and John. We read that Peter and John run to the tomb, and they go and they come there. John just stops. He kind of outruns Peter in that race, and he stops right outside the tomb. He sees the empty tomb, the cloths lying there, and Peter runs in and sees it and sees the turban or the headdress that Jesus' body was wrapped in, his head was in, and it's there, and it's just lying there. And then John comes in, and it says John believed. And this is the very first witness we have of anyone believing, although they didn't know the fullness of the resurrection, that Jesus actually risen from the dead, but that he wasn't there, and that something had happened under God's direction. And meanwhile, the women who, at least Mary Magdalene and some of the others, seem to have followed Jesus back to the tomb, or Jesus had followed Peter and John back to the tomb, and Peter and John take off to go back to where they were staying and the other disciples were, but Mary Magdalene comes and looks inside and again sees the empty tomb, and she hears a voice, and she hears this voice of someone. As she turns, she thinks it's the gardener, and she says, "Perhaps you can tell me where they have taken the body so that I can go and find him." And she still thinks that Jesus is dead. She wants to find his body. But then he speaks out the word Mary, calling her by name, that most closest of relationships. And she responds, Rabboni, which is teacher. And turning, she sees Jesus and is the first witness to the resurrected Christ from the dead. And then she and the other women, Jesus appears to them, and they come and worship him. The other women, along with Mary, are the very first ones to see Jesus risen. And he says, "Don't hold on to me. I must go to my Father. And you tell my disciples that I will meet them." And so they go back and once again bear witness to this. But the wonderful story is that those who were closest to Jesus, who followed him, closest to him at the end of his life, are closest to him at the beginning of his new life there at the resurrection, and bear witness to him.
Yeah, I think it's just so exciting that Jesus, out of everyone, chooses the women to be the first to see him, and then sends them off to be the first to tell that he has risen. That is such an honor. I think the whole Resurrection Sunday, as we celebrate that and celebrate Easter, there is such rejoicing over the fact that Jesus is not dead, but he's alive. But I think also when we look at this story a little bit closer, it is about how highly Jesus values relationships. Relationships with his disciples, relationships with the people, but particularly relationships with the women, how highly he values that.
Yeah, there's a heart connection there.
Oh, very much a deep heart connection. And this is what Easter is all about. It's understanding relationships. You see, if we'll read through the story and we'll go back time and time again, the picture's always the same. Jesus remains faithful, loving, dependable, and it's the disciples and the leaders who change the relationships up and split that deep, heartfelt relationship and appear to almost destroy it. But out of Jesus' deep love, he can restore all of these relationships. This Easter, as you think about relationships, if you want to know this Jesus more, the best place I could suggest for you is to get connected with the Enlighten Foundation. Wherever you are in your relationship, you might never have had or thought about a relationship with Jesus. It could be that you're in a relationship, but you would like to know how to better negotiate that relationship. Or it might be that you're just so much in love with Jesus, you're looking for a place where you can build on that. The Enlighten Foundation has this great program called The Journey. It's led by Anne Griffith, the founder and director of the Enlighten Foundation. I really would suggest to you this Easter, make the choice to get to know the one who loves you with an everlasting love, the one who has promised never to leave you nor forsake you, the one who can only be faithful and true in a way, especially for women, our hearts need and desire. So happy Easter, and we hope you have a blessed, blessed time.